Well, welcome to Jefferson Liberty Radio, the voice of liberty in the Central Valley. I'm Matthew, joined as always by our lovely team. We have a great upcoming episode here with Sam Paredes from Gun Owners of California. But before we get on to that, let me tell you about our need for sponsors. This show does cost money to run. We do need help, and we would love your sponsorship. If you know of anybody, if you yourself or you know of anybody who wants to sponsor our show, you can head over to jeffersonlibertyradio.com or email us at sponsors@jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We would really love your support. Again, we need the support to keep this show running and would love it from you. Get in touch with us. We'd love to work something out with you and get some sponsorships going. I'm going to hand it over to Pat. Let's get going, Pat.
Well, welcome to Jefferson Liberty Radio. Tonight we have Sam Paredes, who is the executive director of the Gun Owners of California. And Sam, I have to say we are so grateful and thankful that you're giving us some of your time, your very precious time this evening. And welcome to Jefferson Liberty Radio. So,
thank you very much. I'm very excited. I'm honored, and I'm looking forward to this.
And we need to let people know what's going on with guns in California. So,
wow.
Right. And you're the man to talk to, that's for sure. So, so for those of you who don't know you, do you want to go ahead and start off by telling us a little bit more about you? First of all, let me introduce my co-people here tonight. John. Co-host. Thank you.
Good evening.
This is John and Aaron.
Good evening.
And Matthew.
Good evening.
So there we go. And now, please go ahead and give us some information on yourself. Please, Sam.
Well, I've been involved in the pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment movement for a long time, actually since 1980 as a paid professional, and a few years before that as a volunteer and supporter. I've been associated with gun owners either as a direct employee or a member of the board of directors since 1980, so that makes it, 40? A bunch. It makes it a lot of years. And
we're thankful for that.
I grew up in East Los Angeles. I graduated from Pepperdine University with a degree in political science. I did not want to go to law school, so and I did not want to stay in Southern California. Moved up here, worked in some campaigns, got involved with gun owners, and the rest is history. I've been lobbying, I've been working in elections, and I've been working in the legal arena. I didn't want to be a lawyer, but I end up working in the legal arena more than many lawyers do. And it's been an amazing experience fighting for the restoration and the protection of the Second Amendment here in California. I've got 3 children. I've got 8 grandchildren. Great family. Love them. They're the thing that keeps me going. An amazing wife who works with me at Gun Owners and writes our blog and our clips.
She's the one who writes your book, because I've been reading your blogs. They're awesome, by the way. Tell her she does a great job.
I will. She'll be happy to hear that. She spent 35 years in the state legislature working for conservative assemblymen and senators. And once she left and came to work for me, she was unchained. She was able to write what she really wanted to write, the way she really wanted to write it. And it's been just awesome. We've been having some great success with the blog. Lots of people getting information. Like we say at Gun Owners of California, everybody should be armed and informed, and we endeavor to make sure that the people have that are able to utilize those rights of to bearing arms, keeping arms, and to be informed with the correct information so they can fight for their own rights and liberties.
Nice. Well, I'm going to turn it over to John and Aaron, and they will start with the first questions for you. Thanks for that info.
All right.
Very good. Well, thank you for the introduction. I was wondering, the blog or the email that's the most current talks about the new regulations that have come down from the DOJ on the the ammunition issue here in California. Could you expand on that for our listeners that may not receive your emails or your blogs?
Well, for anybody who wants to get our blogs and our emails, you have to go to our website at www.gunownersca.com, gunownersca.com. Sign up to get the blog and to receive our email alerts, because you need this information. With regards to the ammunition regulations, they are an absolute catastrophe for Californians, and they are going to be woefully surprised the next time they go to a gun store, particularly after July 1st, to buy ammunition to shoot for their guns. And it doesn't matter if it's a 22 long rifle, all the handgun, all the rifle, all the shotgun ammunition, it doesn't matter. The only thing that is not affected is the components, are the components for reloaders. You folks can continue to buy powder, primers, cases, projectiles, and have them mail ordered and delivered to your home just like normal. But if you want to buy a loaded box of ammunition, now you will have to go to a dealer, a registered and certified ammunition vendor, and you will have to give your name, your address, your driver's license, what you bought, the name of the salesman, your home address, and then you're going to get to choose about which background check process you want to go under in order to get your ammunition. One is going to be that you can choose to ask the dealer to put you through the AFIS system. That's the automated firearm system. That means they plug this information in the computer. It immediately checks to see if you have a gun registered in your name in the state of California. If at any time you bought a gun from a dealer in the state, you are on the automated firearm system. So it checks that, and then it checks to see if you are on the armed prohibited persons system, which is the system that holds all people that have disqualifying crimes that they've committed, convictions, which would not allow them to own firearms or ammunition. If you're clear on that and you have a gun registered, then you pay $1 and you walk out with your ammunition. The second process that you can do is you can get a certificate of eligibility. That means you can apply with the Department of Justice for a certificate of eligibility, just like a gun dealer or a gun dealer employee. Anybody can apply for one of these. It costs about $90 or $99 because you have to be fingerprinted. It's got to go to DOJ. It takes them 30 days or so to process that, and then they send you your certificate of eligibility. If you have that, then you can tell the dealer, I have my COE. They plug that information into the computer. It bounces it. They find out that you have a COE. You pay your $1 and you walk away. The third method is if you don't have a gun registered with DOJ. Let's say you all the guns you have are the guns you inherited from your grandpa and your dad that are all 70s and 80s guns, and you didn't buy any guns from dealers, but you have lots of guns. Well, then you do not appear on the AFIS system. Therefore, you can register just like you would when you buy a gun and fill out a form just like the dealer record of sales. You pay $19, and you can wait up to 10 days in order to be approved for you to walk out with your ammunition. And that approval is valid for 30 days, and it's a one-time transaction. Once you buy your ammunition and walk out, the next time you want to buy it, you have to do another $19 and 30-day process if you choose to go through that method to verify. So for lots of people, there are tons of questions. Well, can I buy ammunition for guns that I don't have registered? Yes, you can buy any caliber in any amount, and if you choose the first two methods, you can pay $1 and walk out with a pallet full of ammunition. That's fine. It's for each transaction, not each box of ammunition. It's $1. So that is one way of doing it, and that's one question that comes up. Whether they can buy if they don't have a 45 listed on their APHIS list. And by the way, anybody can check with the Department of Justice by going to their website and requesting a list of the guns that are registered in their name. You can do that. It's a little bit of a process, costs a little bit of money, and then you can get a list of all of the guns that are registered in your name, and that can be helpful. Now, the statute says that this background check is supposed to be instant, an instant background check. Well, the regulations tell us that DOJ has no intention of sticking to that part of the statute if they can't figure out what the heck is going on, because they're going to issue you a number, a transaction number that you can use to verify the process of your background check. So that means that it's not going to be instant, and they know it's not going to be instant, even though the statute doesn't give them the authority to do it in any other way but through instant background check. But DOJ is going to do what they're going to do, and that's going to be a matter of legal contention here real soon.
Oh, absolutely! It sounds like an awful large infringement to me.
Boy, by definition, it is an infringement, and the California Rifle and Pistol Association has filed a lawsuit called Rody versus Becerra to challenge the entire ammunition statute body of law, and so that lawsuit is in place and making its way through the process. The attorneys are evaluating now whether they can and should challenge these regulations before they go into effect July 1st, or if it might be tactically, and strategically better to allow DOJ to let these regulations go into place, and then they crash and burn. In which case, it'll be plain to every judge that the DOJ is infringing on hundreds of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of gun owners in the state of California, and would make our case even stronger. So it's very convoluted, guys. I know there are a lot of rumors flying around as to what it is and what it's going to be. Don't rely on rumors. Call Gun Owners of California at 916-984-1400. Get the straight scoop. And I know that CRPA, we're going to cooperate with them later on before the ammunition regulations go into effect to have a webinar that people can actually dial into and learn everything they need to know about the new ammunition laws in the state of California. That information will be released very soon after June 1st, once we set up the webinar and we're able to share this information with everybody. But there are going to be a lot of dealers that are going to be affected business-wise. The normal business model of having people come in and buy a brick of ammunition because they're going to go squirrel hunting up in Modoc County this weekend, they might not be able to do that, in a timely manner. So very confusing, very convoluted, and it's certain to crash and burn at some time. And we're going to be prepared to fight with everything we have.
Well, as far as ammunition goes, say we had a situation where a young woman in our citizenry was being done wrong by a significant other, and she chose to purchase a weapon and purchase ammunition for that the same day. Would she be able to purchase that ammunition at the same time?
Yes. What will happen is the background check that they go through when she buys that firearm will serve to be the background check for ammunition purchases at that time. During that transaction, they will be able to buy the ammunition for that gun, and when they pick up the gun 10 days later, they will also be able to pick up the ammunition.
Right. Well, as far as my view, 10 days later, that's a whole different subject. That's not ammunition, and I guess it leads into my next question on where does gun owners of California draw the line on infringement? For example, background checks, purchase wait times, this ammunition issue. My view is that shall not be infringed means if I want a nuclear-powered submarine with, anti-aircraft or nuclear-tipped missiles, I'm allowed to have that.
And I would be your first officer on that nuclear submarine.
Excellent. Welcome aboard, sir.
We Gun Owners of California and Gun Owners of America are national organizations, and our foundation, Gun Owners Foundation, we are absolute no compromise believers in the Second Amendment. We believe that the Constitution, and in particular the Second Amendment, can and should only be read in historically, textually, and traditionally with the meaning of the words that were written by our founding fathers at the time. Therefore, they can't use balancing tests like rational basis or intermediate or strict scrutiny to decide if it's an infringement. It is either an infringement or it is not, and there is no leeway. There is no gray area in this manner. The right to keep and bear arms is inviolable. We believe that registration systems are only set up for the government to be able to confiscate sometime in the future. They do not solve crimes. They do not prevent crimes. And we believe that if you have to register, that means you have to ask the government permission to exercise a constitutionally enumerated right, and that is wrong. That
Absolutely.
is anti-constitutional. So it's bad. And if you want to own a 50 BMG, whatever you want to own, we feel the same way about all category of guns. And there is no wiggle room. We have written multiple friend of the court briefs to the Supreme Court and multiple appellate courts explaining that and arguing from that position for many years. I hope that's clear.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly my stance on it, the issue, and I appreciate the whole Gun Owners of California organization's stance being the same as mine.
Well, then we're in good company, my friend. You
right.
Just say dive, and I'm going to put those planes down.
I won't see you guys there. I have claustrophobia.
Oh no! Heck, some of these subs are so big you can't tell that you're underwater.
You're okay. I will stand.
Well, it doesn't necessarily even need to be a submarine. We could do an aircraft carrier, and then Pat can watch the horizon, and everybody's happy.
That's all right.
There you go. We'll do that.
That's right. I'll have my lounger on the flight deck with a frou-frou drink with a little umbrella on it and my cigar, enjoying freedom.
Oh, we are dreaming, aren't we? We want our liberty.
Yeah.
We want our liberty back.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have questions?
Yeah, I did actually, Sam. I was wondering if you could tell me the status of the magazine ban on the 10 rounds.
Okay. Yes, that's a great question, and there's a lot of confusion as to what happened. CRPA filed a lawsuit with Judge Benitez down in San Diego, challenging the ban on standard capacity magazines that can hold more than 10 rounds. The government calls them LCMs, large capacity magazines. The judge, if people didn't read his ruling, it was masterful in defense of the Second Amendment and declared the entire body of law having to do with magazines in California unconstitutional. Therefore, the government could not make people get rid of any grandfathered high cap magazines that they had in possession, like the government wanted to do. They were prevented from doing that, and it made all those magazines legal. All of the magazines that people had, all of the parts that they had, they could assemble them and they could have large capacity magazines. Well, what happened is that the Attorney General was he actually filed an appeal on the judge's stay of his decision. And one of two things was going to happen. He was either going to go to Benitez, and Benitez was going to issue the stay on his own ruling, or the Attorney General was going to go to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and we know what would have happened there. They would have overturned it. They would have retroactively gone back and wiped out the possession of all of the magazines. So what Benitez did, he said, okay, I'm not going to let you guys do that, go to the Ninth. I'm going to rule a stay on my ruling, and it's going to go into effect Friday, a week from now. So what that did, and anybody who has those magazines or acquires them between that time, they are legally possessed. They are now newly legal in the state of California, and the government cannot take them away. So what he did was he protected the millions of magazines that were purchased in that 1 week here in the state of California. And I'm telling you, I was a very greedy, eager beaver, and the boxes of magazines that I received, I took full advantage of that. But what he did is he protected all of the people who bought those magazines. And yes, you can't buy them anymore. You can't import them anymore. All of the regular standard laws that were in place are back in place until the next step happens on this issue. And what's going to happen is that it will be appealed to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. But the Ninth Circuit is holding off on any of their gun cases. They have another case, Young versus the state of Hawaii, which had to do with open carry. They're not ruling on any of those cases until they hear direction from the Supreme Court. Now that they have accepted the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus the City of New York case, they granted it certiorari, which means they're going to hear the case at the beginning of the next session, which will be this September, October, November. And that has to do with transporting firearms. In the city of New York, you can own a gun, believe it or not. It costs you hundreds of dollars and many background checks and interviews. But if they grant you the privilege of owning a gun, you are only allowed to take that gun in a locked container to one of several approved gun ranges within the city. You cannot take it out of the city to go hunting or to compete or to go to a gun show or to go to your cousin's house. That would be illegal, a felony, and you would be in violation of the law. Clearly unconstitutional. So that was challenged. The Supreme Court accepted the case. And now, a little background, the city of New York is working feverishly to change their law in order to moot the case that is before the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court is saying, nah, we're not going to let you do that. We're going to rule on this issue. And the reason they want to do that is not because, as New York City feels that the court is going to rule their regiment unconstitutional, but the court may also do what we expect that they're going to do, and that's rule on the level of scrutiny with regards to all Second Amendment cases that happen throughout the country. In Heller versus Washington, D.C., Justice Scalia said that judges should refrain from using balancing tests when deciding Second Amendment cases, that they should use the text, the history, and the tradition of the words written in the Constitution, and that should be their guide. That is their balancing test, not intermediate scrutiny or rational basis or strict scrutiny or any other fancy, fandangled way that they would come up with decisions that would match their philosophy and not necessarily reflect the meaning of the Constitution. He said, don't do it. Well, courts throughout the country have just ignored that direction. They've done anything that they want. As a matter of fact, they telegraphed to legislatures saying, whatever you pass, we're going to deem constitutional, and so just do what you want to do. Well, if the court says and directs that no more and makes it an actual ruling that courts cannot use anything except text, history, and tradition, oh my goodness, that means that all of the gun control laws that have been passed and that were previously on the books now become open to challenges. We will, if we get that ruling, turn around and sue to overturn all of the unconstitutional laws in the state of California, and other organizations will be doing it throughout the rest of the country. But we're going to challenge the safe handgun roster, the assault weapons ban, the ammunition regulations, registration, 10-day waiting periods. You know, we should be a constitutional carry state. But if all we can do in steps, sometimes you have to, you know, eat an elephant one bite at a time. We become a shall issue state, and the counties of Los Angeles and San Francisco have to issue CCWs to anybody who's a law-abiding citizen and request one. And the only reason they have to say is that because I want one, I want to exercise my right.
Mm-hmm.
That will be amazing on the issue. It'll settle the issue of gun control in California. So we're very excited about that case.
Now you mentioned that the Ninth Circuit has put these cases on hold until that Supreme Court case is decided.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our listeners are familiar with a case that Mark Baird has, Baird et al. Versus Becerra. Are you familiar with that case?
Very familiar. Mark and I actually spoke about the case before he filed the case. So
Okay.
yes, I am very familiar.
So my question, even though that's in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of California, is that going to be heard, or would that case also be on hold because of the pending Supreme Court issues?
It'll probably, on the district court level, I believe that the cases will continue to move. It is on appeal that things are going to be slowing down until the Supreme Court rules on level of scrutiny. So I believe that Mark's case and other cases that are down in the district court level will continue to move.
Very good. So our business isn't totally stopped as a...
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. And you know what? Even if it were, we should run like our hair is on fire, always pushing and demanding that we have our day in court, our presence before the legislature, and everything that we can do to fight to protect the Second Amendment and force the government to take action. So.
Right. Absolutely. That's our duty, our responsibility. I was just, for my knowledge, trying to figure out, are we all stagnated, or is something happening, No,
it's mainly with regards to the appellate courts, that they are the ones who are receiving these district court cases and are saying, well, let's kind of wait and see. And guys, and Pat, they are truly fearful of what's going to happen, or else the city of New York would never consider changing their laws in order to moot their case before the Supreme Court. They are shaking in their boots, and there are a lot of anti-gun movement activists that are saying, "Oh my goodness, what in the world did you guys do? What did you do?" Now that we have Justice Kavanaugh, who, when he was on the Ninth Circuit Court the D.C. Circuit Court, he used those words, quoting Scalia in Heller 3, that they should be evaluating these cases strictly on text, history, and tradition, and nothing else. And we know that Justice Gorsuch said the same thing during his confirmation hearing. So we know that those two guys, Alito is solid, Thomas is solid, and believe it or not, Roberts is solid on the Second Amendment too. He might be a little loosey-goosey on other stuff, but on the Second Amendment, if he's our weakest link, we are in really good shape on the Second Amendment.
Wow, that's good news. I'm glad you've got some good news there for everyone, all Californians, for all of us, for our constitutional right to carry.
Well,
even for us Jeffersonians.
Yes, exactly.
regardless what the courts say,
Mhm.
I think we all, as constitutional-minded individuals, need to realize that there's three branches of government that are hamstrung by the Constitution on the shall not infringe deal, and the judiciary, the Supreme Court, is absolutely one of those branches. My personal belief, and I would hope that gun owners of California, gun owners of the nation, NRA, all pro-weapons groups would agree with me that even a Supreme Court ruling on an armament issue is unconstitutional, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only thing that the Supreme Court should be doing is saying, hey, the Second Amendment says what it means, and it means what it says, and we're not going to sit here and split hairs, or it defines itself. We are not here to define the Second Amendment. It defines itself, and if you are making rulings, coming up with your own definitions, that is wrong, it's unconstitutional, and we will overturn you. So that's the way it should be. And I'm what I want to do is I want to breathe a little a ray of hope to all of our folks that have been out there fighting for decades now to protect and restore the Second Amendment. Because of the long-term fight that we have been engaging in at all levels of government, we are now in a position to where a very significant turn of events is on the horizon. Now, that isn't the only case. There are two other cases that the Supreme Court is considering taking. One of them is New Jersey State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Grewal, who is the Attorney General of New Jersey. And that has to do with concealed weapons permit and carrying. And that's an important case. And then there's a third case, Jeremy Kettler versus the United States. And that's a case that we at Gun Owners Foundation are actually the lead attorneys on. That's a case that challenges the constitutionality of the NFA 1934, the National Firearms Act of 1934. That is admitted by the government, a taxing program on certain types of firearms, machine guns, suppressors, short-barreled shotguns, and short-barreled rifles, and other armament devices that are considered Class 3. The government admits that it's a taxing program. You have to buy a $200 tax stamp in order to be able to buy one of these firearms. Well, since 1934, the Supreme Court has had multiple cases not related to the NFA 1934, but they have said that, it's actually unconstitutional to tax the exercising of a constitutional right. So taxing, because if you don't pay the tax, you can't exercise your right. That's wrong,
Absolutely.
and that makes total sense.
Yes.
So that too is in the pipeline and can further restore the Second Amendment to its full glory in America, and especially here in California. Very excited about those cases.
Good. And all of that information is on your website, right?
Yes. You can go to our website, and you can go to resources and legislation, and you can go to courts, and all of the cases are there. You can read all of the cases, all of the briefs, all of the amicus briefs that we've written, the main cases. All of that information is on our website and available to anybody who wants to educate themselves. So it's all available. Like we say, armed and informed. We're doing everything we can to make sure that everybody is armed if they want to be, and informed with correct information. So,
and Sam, I've been to that. I've been to that site for a number of times, and I can't. It is so easy to use. It's a really good site. You've done well. And
well, thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you're welcome, and I'm very glad it is so easy because I'm not very computer savvy, as my cohorts can tell you.
Neither am I. But I've had to learn, and basically we told our developers and my staff that, hey, folks, this has to be bonehead easy, and it has to make sense as to how to utilize it to get the information that people need quickly. And if it's not that, if it's too complicated, too many clicks and stuff like that, then it's not going to work. So we've endeavored very hard to do that. We are constrained by the website limitations and all of that stuff, but we've made it as simple as possible to make good information available in a timely manner.
Well, I just want to thank you for that, though. That those are excellent excellent information there.
Thank you.
Aaron has another question for you.
Sure.
What I've got here is lately we've been hearing, well, probably in the last year or so, we've been hearing about these Second Amendment sanctuary cities, states, counties, and whatever. Do those mean anything at all?
Well, they do. They are particularly. You'll find most of the sanctuary cities on the Second Amendment in states where it is very difficult for the state government to exact any sort of punishment on the law enforcement officials who choose to take that position, who choose to honor their commitment to the Constitution of the United States, which is supreme over the Constitution of their state and the laws that their local laws that govern them. So anybody who wants to make that position and that statement, more power to them. God bless them. Here in the state of California, we have many sheriffs whom I would categorize as constitutional sheriffs. They issue concealed weapons permits on a constitutional carry basis. In other words, if you're a law-abiding citizen, they issue you the CCWs. They don't make it so difficult that only former Navy SEALs or SWAT team members can qualify in order to get a CCW, and they do what they can. Here in the state of California, unfortunately, the Attorney General and the legislature can exact an inordinate amount of pain on our good law enforcement officers. So instead of making the public statement, you take their actions and you judge them by their actions. And we have tons of sheriffs that are just rock solid.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that's really good to know.
Any other questions? John, did you have anything? Nothing. John doesn't have anything more to say. I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Well, let me. I know there are a lot of issues out there that people are concerned with.
Okay.
Like their AR and AK platform rifles.
Oh yeah.
There are two ways to legally possess an AR-15 style rifle or an AK-47 style rifle without having it registered. First of all, if you haven't already registered it with the state of California as a registered assault weapon, that window is now closed. Anybody who attempts to do that now can expect a visit from a couple of black Suburbans with guys jumping out in ninja suits. Come pay you a visit.
That might be fun though. Just kidding.
Yeah,
Just
well,
kidding.
they make it as painful as possible when they do that. Their sirens are blaring in your neighborhood. The lights are going on, and they usually arrive at 9 or 10 in the evening. So all the neighbors are wondering what the heck is going on. They make it a little bit of a spectacle often, but there are two things that you can do.
They're scared to catch us while we're waiting for them is all.
Go ahead, Sam.
There are two things that you can do. You can make your gun California compliant. That means that you put devices on your firearm so that the magazine can only be removed by disassembling the gun, by cracking the action in order to remove the magazine. And if you configure your gun with that kind of a system, then you're good to go. You don't need to be registered. You can only use 10-round magazines. Even if you own 30-round magazines, you can only use 10-round magazines in those guns. The other thing that you can do is to make it a featureless rifle. That means that, for people who don't know, a California assault weapon, that is a term that was coined by the state legislature, had never existed in the lexicon of militaria throughout the history of the world until the state legislature in California coined that phrase in order to demonize these black guns that were meant only for death, and that you know that that's what they're meant for, because you can see it in the movies and TV how they're only used for death, and no one would hunt with them or compete with them or collect them or anything like that. They're only used to kill people. Well, we know that to be not. I mean, I laugh at that, but
Yeah.
it is defined as a semi-automatic rifle with a detachable magazine and one of the following features: a flash suppressor, a conspicuously protruding pistol grip, a grenade launcher, which cracks me up because a grenade launcher also doubles as a bayonet lug on the front end of a gun. It's just a little nipple, so you have to cut that off. A collapsible folding or thumb hold stock, if it has, or a forward pistol grip. If it doesn't have any of those features, and you can configure your gun without those features, then it is not a California assault weapon, which means that you can use your 30-round magazines that you bought during the Benitez free-for-all, that wonderful week of freedom that we enjoyed. There are guys that have converted their guns to single shots. There are guys that have put sword stem stocks on them, which is a rifle stock that is not collapsible, it is not folding, it is not thumb hole, and it removes the configuration of the conspicuously protruding pistol grip. Instead of a flash hider, they have a compensator, which is just a flash hider with the bottom panel filled in, and it puts all of the muzzle gases sideways and up in the air to keep the muzzle from rising. And they don't put a forward pistol grip on it. They make sure that their gun doesn't have the grenade launcher tip on it. Then you can do anything you want, and it's good. You're good to go. So, and then there are folks who have Springfield M1As and Ruger Mini 14s. They don't constitute assault weapons. You can use your high cap magazines on those if you want to legally, and you are good to go. So, and if anybody is concerned whether their gun is legal or illegal, all you have to do is take the upper off of the lower, and you're good. You can store them in the same place. You can keep them in the same case. You can transport them in the same case. As long as it is not a functional gun, it is not and cannot be an assault weapon. So if you're concerned about your configuration and you want to wait, you don't want to go through all the gobbledygook of Barbie doll in your gun with all of these new fancy gadgets in order to make it legal, and you want to wait for the Supreme Court to restore sanity and liberty and freedom, you can just separate them and put them in your safe and leave them there until our rights are restored, and then you can reassemble it and do whatever you want. So, if anybody has any questions about that, they can call our office. We will send them a kind of a spreadsheet as to what constitutes a California assault weapon and what people can do to protect themselves against the unconstitutional ravages of law enforcement. And I don't mean cops, but the enforcement of unconstitutional laws. So people, please don't push the envelope. Don't make it so that the pro-gun groups have to go out and have to bail somebody out of jail or support them in their criminal cases. What that does is it wastes the resources that we are using to fight to restore our rights, which we are making great progress in. And if we have to spend money on saving people who just said, to hell with everybody in the government, and I'm going to do whatever the heck I'm going to do, then they get arrested, and then they come to us saying, "Oh, we need your help. We need you to defend us," and all of that kind of good stuff. We're saying we're trying to defend you, and we're trying to make it so that you have everything that you want, but you just have to be patient and work with us. But if you want to be a lone ranger, don't expect everybody to come to your aid. When we are fighting the fight and we're making progress, We've been doing it for 40 some years, and we're making great progress, and we don't need to be, sidelined by some people that want to push the envelope.
Yes.
So
that's
we need to be wise.
Yeah, that's it. Be wise.
Well, and if you're going to push the envelope, you have to accept some responsibility for yourself. You can't expect everyone to collectively pitch in and help you out.
Absolutely.
Well,
collectively, it's our responsibility to pitch in to make change, not to bail you out when you refuse to conform.
That's the conservative way. Be responsible.
Oh, yeah. Self-responsibility is
that's it.
It's not something that's very popular nowadays, is it?
It certainly is.
No, it's not. We like to say that, hey, folks, we are the law abiding. If we don't like the law, we work within the framework that our founding fathers established and gave us as a heritage through our political and judicial system to fight to restore our rights. That's what we do when we don't like the law. But we don't break the law and become rebels when we have not exhausted our ability to fight for our rights. And that's what a lot of people do is they want to skip the responsibility of being active in their government and forcing the government to be to stay within their constitutional boundaries. And they want to go straight to liberty and ignore that. And I think that disrespects our founding fathers who established the best political and judicial system ever. It's not perfect, but it's the best one ever created. And what we need to do is we need to get together, bind together as organizations, as groups, in order to fight together. The other side, the people that we are opposing, they're very good at organizing and funding their groups in order to take our rights away. We need to be better at it than them. Our folks, our freedom-loving people, we want to concentrate on our families, our churches, our homes, our recreation, our avocations. That's what we want to concentrate our time with, and we have to sacrifice some of that time to be active politically in order to fight for our rights to be able to enjoy all of the things that we have been bequeathed by our founding fathers. So, our founding fathers were very, very wise men. They knew that sometime in the future, they knew that they understood what living under tyranny felt like. They just finished a war. Many of them died. Many of them lost their fortunes, lost their families, lost their homes, but they knew what tyranny was like, and they knew what freedom was all about. But they also knew that sometime in the future, in generations to come, Americans who have not felt the sting of battle, preserve those rights, would forget about it and would get lazy. And as they would point out, there is no government that is not going to try to get bigger and stronger and more powerful. That is the nature of government. That's why they gave us the Bill of Rights, to enumerate certain rights that pre-existed the Constitution, that are actually God-given rights, so that we could rely on those, that they were written into our Constitution. And that's why you and I are able to sit here and talk about this freely and to fight for our Second Amendment rights. And I tell you what, anybody who goes into the airwaves to talk about freedom, whether it's the Second Amendment or the First Amendment or economic liberties or free market or anything like that, my hat's off to them, because they are the voice of freedom and liberty. And they are the ones who are sparking these thoughts in the listeners' minds in order to get them to be engaged. And I thank you for what you folks are doing to spread the voice and message of liberty throughout this great state.
Thank you. Thank you for
right. We appreciate that.
We do. We appreciate that a bunch. And boy, you were so right about our founding fathers being so.
Mm-hmm.
They knew human nature, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Are Are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm here.
Okay, I was wondering if you were going out on me. So my fault. Hey,
No.
so I think Sam, this might be a good place to stop. You were. Thank you. We can't thank you enough for being there. Oh, hold on just a second. Aaron does have one more question for you.
Actually,
I'm ready.
Okay, it's not a question, but I was wondering if you could give us your phone number again one more time.
Sure. Our phone number is 916-984-1400, and our website is www.gunownersca.com, GUNOWNERSCA.com, or Google Gun Owners of California. Our website will pop up. If anybody has any questions, call, send us an email, send carrier pigeon, telegraph, whatever it is that they need to do in order to get answers to questions that they might have. Our people should not be ignorant of what the laws are and what the truth is, and we should not rely on rumors. So answers are available to anybody who's seeking answers, and all they have to do is I was going to say drop a dime, but boy, that's really old school. I'm thinking of the old days when I jump into the phone booth and turn into Superman.
That was the last time I used a pay telephone. I can't even remember.
Boy, it's probably been a long time. But yeah. So that's the state of the Second Amendment in California. We are under attack at the legislature. There are 40-some. We started with 60 bills that we were watching this year. We've been able to defeat several of them in the process, but there's still a lot of very bad stuff that's making its way through. And I'm looking forward to the day when I'm going to be able to go and stand before a committee and say, you know what? We told you so. The Supreme Court just confirmed it. So you might as well just close up the Public Safety Committee with regards to the Second Amendment and start thinking about real crime control. Because gun control is not crime control.
Right.
And
right.
Go in a whole different direction. So looking forward to that day.
Oh, yes. Well, I hate to say that legislature is your job security, but that's kind of what it is. And I think you'd look forward to the day when it isn't. You're such, we can't thank you enough for all you do for all of the gun owners in California and just the Second Amendment in general. Thank you so much for being with us again, sir. And we wish you a very pleasant evening. And anything else, guys?
No, sir. Thank you for being with us.
Okay.
Thank you, Sam.
God bless you all. God bless you all. Thank you for the opportunity. And in hopefully when we get more news and there's more issues to talk about, we've done a little more work, we can get together and share a lot of good news with all of your listeners. So
absolutely.
God bless you and thank you very much.
That would be awesome. God bless you, sir. Thank you very much.
Right.
Good night.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Jefferson Liberty Radio. Again, if you or anybody is you know of might be interested in sponsoring our show, you can get in touch with us, sponsors at jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We would also love to hear from you, any of our listeners out there. You can email us at feedback@jeffersonlibertyradio.com or email us or get in touch with us via our website, again, jeffersonlibertyradio.com. You can also leave us a voicemail. This is a new option. 209-214-8099. That's 209-214-4099. Chances are, if you leave us a voicemail, we will play it on the air and answer your questions. We'd love to hear questions and comments from you. Don't forget to subscribe to us in iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, or your podcast player of choice. We're available on all those options. I'm sure whatever podcast player you use, you can find us on there. Make sure you subscribe to us, especially if you're on the website. Get those episodes downloaded straight to your phone or whatever device you may be using. Leave us a 5-star review where you can. We would really, really appreciate it, and it actually does help our ratings. That's a big part of our ratings. You can find us on all of your typical social media, Facebook, Twitter, and you can also find us on alternative media such as BitChute and Gab. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Jefferson Liberty Radio, and we'll catch you next time. Jefferson Liberty Radio is a production of Forgotten Liberty Media. The views expressed by the host or guests throughout the various episodes may not necessarily reflect the views of Forgotten Liberty Media as a company.